So the crazy thing is process control, procedure control, all that. A lot of companies have really bad process control and procedure control, and as a result you get junk, and when it is not working, it doesn't, you don't even know how to fix it. So we've got a great opportunity to talk here with Seth from LogistaView, who's going to tell us how any company can get up to Tesla's quality standards and beyond. I'm Brian, welcome to my Tesla Weekend. LogistaView, they make processes and procedures actually work. They can get companies up to the Tesla level and beyond. So what are we doing here?
So LogistaView is an operations management platform that allows automotive suppliers and assemblers to control the flow of work, control the execution of work, and plan in real time with intelligent data analysis.
Well, that sounds super exciting, but let's talk about an actual process. Let's say, give me an example of a company that's doing something wrong and a solution you provided them that actually made the things better.
So one of our customers is a pre-assemblies manufacturer for Peterbilt trucking, and they were known, or they had worked very hard on their quality, but they were getting feedback that their quality was subpar, and so they actually were challenged to prove their quality. And so what they ended up doing was coming to us and saying, hey, can you help us prove quality? One of the ways that we were able to do that was by outfitting each of their workers with smart glasses. And by putting smart glasses on and then feeding in all the work instructions into the device visually, and then collecting all the data with the device back into our platform, we were actually able to control in real time the delivery of instructions and the collection of data, including quality data in the format of pictures and videos. And so that customer actually is doing picking, assembly, and quality analysis using our devices, and that enabled them to prove without question their quality by providing video evidence on each individual sequence, on each individual part, that they had indeed delivered quality or identify the problem that they need to remediate.
So I've got an assembly plant, but I've got instructions right here on the wall. Any employee can follow them and build them, and many factories do exactly this. You've seen them.
Absolutely.
Why doesn't it work? What does this do differently than just give me instructions?
Well, it's about understanding the context of the work. So instructions on the wall are one thing. Standard operating procedures are one thing, but it's really important to be able to connect the work that's going on with the actual chassis number that you're working on or the serial number of the subassembly that you're working on, and then be able to connect back all of the data about how the work was done. So not only can we control the process, the work instructions, but we can also control the flow of the process based on whether or not you have completed the step in a satisfactory manner.
So I put those glasses on. It says tighten the bolt, and to 65 pounds of torque. I tighten it to 50, and it says what?
Well, our system in that case would be actually connected to the torque wrench wirelessly, and we would be able to tell you in real time what the current torque level is, what the target torque level is, and then automatically adjust and progress the workflow only after you have achieved your desired torque level. Even better, if you over torque it, we can also tell you, hey, wait a minute, you jumped the gun, and tell you to back it off before you can proceed to the next step of that workflow.
So what happens is right here, I've got steps 1, 2, and 3, and when I get to 2 and I do it wrong, it says there's no step 3 yet.
Exactly.
And
you are not allowed to proceed.
And that's going to improve quality from every step thereafter.
I'll tell you what, it is a lot cheaper to prevent an error than it is to remediate it after you've already put that failed part into the vehicle. And so if you can prevent those quality issues from ever getting into the final assembled vehicle, that's where you can save the most money. And that's really what we do. We catch those errors up front and prevent them before they happen.
Now, what about tracking? Let's say we didn't do any errors. We put in the right bolt, we put it to the right torque, but we found out later that we got one whole box where the metal was brittle.
Yep.
Now, I made a million Dodge Rams. Sorry, Dodge. And found out that 1,000 of them have a defective bolt. I need to recall somewhere between 0 and all 1 million trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have visibility, you have to recall all 1 million.
Right. So,
and so
what do you do? How do we fix this?
What we would do is differently is understand the birth history of not just the sub-assemblies, not just the final VIN number, but ultimately going back to the lots of materials that were consumed in the manufacturing process. And so by connecting all those dots, understanding the correlation between raw materials, the sub-assemblies and the serial numbers associated with those sub-assemblies, and then finally which sub-assemblies ended up in which chassis, we can actually give you a pretty solid visibility to which 500 RAMs you should recall instead of having to go and get all 1 million of them. Needless to say, that changes the calculus of how do I recall vehicles. It allows you to be much more strategic and also ensure that there's the fewest possible safety impacts at the lowest possible cost.
So because you've got a complete birth history and everything's got a serial number on it, including parts that don't actually have one, but you have created one virtually.
That's right. We've at least been able to capture the data about that part. What was the lot? When was it received? What shipment was it on, etc.
I could literally recall one car. If I've got a critical safety issue, I could do a one car recall because of this. And how do I know that that the part actually got on? The guy checked it off and said he did, but how do I know that my employee actually attached?
Well, one of the ways we do that is by actually taking image and video quality proof. So we could actually, in an ideal scenario, we could actually go picture and video all the way back to the original pick into the subassembly, the assembly of that subassembly into the final chassis, and be able to go backwards step by step to the point of failure and identify which serial number the subassembly was, which VIN number was on that that was installed in, and all the way back.
So in theory, if there was a lawsuit against me saying my company didn't assemble the car right, I could, in theory, show them a clip of every step of the assembly of that specific vehicle.
Yes. Yes, in fact, we have our customer that I mentioned earlier is doing pretty much just that. They're validating quality, either success or failure, with video-based evidence. It's very powerful.
Now, have you seen companies, can you name any names of companies that desperately need to start doing this to get their quality under control?
Well, I think without naming specific names, I'm going to suggest that the entire Detroit auto industry could benefit from this. There's a challenge of siloed data. Siloed processes, siloed suppliers. If the plant doesn't know what's coming from which suppliers when, if the suppliers don't know what other correlated suppliers are shipping into to each of the various chassis that are being sequenced on the line, what you end up with is data silos. An example, you mentioned Teslafying earlier, but one thing Tesla has an advantage of is that they built their system from the ground up, and it's integrated. And so they have end-to-end visibility. That's something that all automotive manufacturers, especially ones that have been around for 100 years, could benefit from, because a lot of those systems just don't give anybody visibility to what actually happened until it's too late.
And so you've got somebody like look at SpaceX. They have to rapidly refurbish and reuse rockets.
Yeah.
They might have a system like this to keep all the steps moving.
I'm sure they do. I would love it to say it's us, but it's not. But I'm sure they have to have something like this, because otherwise you can't move quickly. That's really what it's all about. You can't move quickly, you can't be flexible, you can't respond to disruptions, and you can't prevent bottlenecks unless you have that end-to-end visibility.
And what costs more, this or any single recall?
I would say it depends, but there's a very it's very simple. There's two things that you want to handle with a recall. You want to get the maximum safety, and you want to have the lowest cost of recall. And right now the challenge is that you have two options. You either have to recall it all, which is an incredibly high cost, or you have to justify why you shouldn't do the recall and risk the safety. Nobody likes those. Both of those options are terrible. So how can we potentially create a solution that makes it so that you can do the recall and maximize safety at the same time?
Boy, those all sound like good things to me. I guess my question on the channel would be, what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Is this something? Do you think that companies like Aptera can get to this point? Do you think companies like Ford, GM, and Stellantis will ever acknowledge that this is even something that they need to do? I hope so, but we shall find out. So leave it all in the comments. What do we get right? What do we get wrong? For everybody else, like, subscribe, do all those usual things. And stay tuned, stay juicy. And I can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the next one. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.